I'm Robert Dempsey, and on behalf of the Department of Neurological Surgery, I want to wish everybody, first of all, a happy Earth Day. This is the 50th anniversary of the first Earth Day, which has strong Wisconsin roots. And that's what we're talking about now is a brief update on the COVID-19 crisis. This crisis impact on things such as the possibility of world famine would be very appropriate this day. I'd like to give a brief update following on the other talks that we've had each week, because it's a very crucial time, I think. In many ways, parts of the world are seeing what would be a plateau or the top of a peak, flattening the curve, many terms, which stand for in parts of the world, including our world, we're seeing a leveling of the number of cases. That is to say, they're not rising rapidly, they're high, but they have not continued to rise or outstrip our supplies. That's important. Nevertheless, there's other important things going on worldwide, which suggest that this will continue to have hotspots in certain areas. And that's going to be important because one of the reasons we did flatten that curve is by the social isolation and common sense hygiene techniques that have been practiced so well in our home area. I remain very, very confident about the way we care for each other, by the way we are cognizant of the importance of this hygienic techniques to limit this spread. Other parts of the world are not so lucky. We're beginning to see disheartening news of things such as in Guayaquil in Ecuador, where the government reports 500 deaths, but the cemetery workers report 8,000 in really just the last 2 weeks, suggesting that the spread or other hotspots may happen, and important factors about what's even happening in Wisconsin at this time. We do know that if we look carefully at the curves or the rate of increase of cases, it is not increasing at the rate that it did before in New York, in Madrid, in Milan, but it is in some parts of the world. For ourselves, we have reached a relatively steady state here at the University Hospital that we can manage. And we've shown some very important principles about our ability to take care of both our COVID patients, but our emergent patients safely, which have been very important. However, we do note that even in Wisconsin, there are new hotspots, Brown County and even Dane County, but related to particular areas where a social isolation was not practiced properly or was not possible, one being a jail, the other being a factory. And we're seeing that this idea that it affects certain factories and processing is important because it really threatens such things as meat packing or food processing. And therefore the concern worldwide, not so much in the United States, but in the areas we care about worldwide, their ability to provide food in the coming year and the possibility of famine is really what comes with pandemics. That remains a concern. The figures here in the University Hospital are quite good. It is very well prepared. Conserved PPE or personal protective equipment very well. We have conserved ventilators very well, and we've cared for patients very well. The result is that we have demonstrated that we can take care of not only the COVID patients, but our emergent patients in this hospital who come in without COVID-19, let's say a heart attack or stroke, care for them properly, return them to health, and return them home safely and uninfected. That's been very important because it fits the criteria now set both by government and by medical scientists as to how do we gradually re-engage. And that's important because we do not suddenly re-engage, but only in areas where we have protected properly and can we provide a broader definition of what we would call essential services. What's that meant here for the University Hospital is that we now realize that we can care for urgent patients just as we have been caring for emergent patients. And that means that very carefully we will be ramping up in the next weeks so that we care for such things as that brain tumor that was growing slowly, which we do not want to wait for the months that we may need to really get past this crisis. And we can safely bring them in to care for them, or the extreme pain, or the person who's at risk of a future stroke, as opposed to the ones we're taking care of now that are in the middle of the stroke. That's a very important concept. And for those of us that have been so worried about these patients who were postponed, we're able to now begin to care for the next level of urgency. That's a major and very optimistic step. But that does not mean that we can in any way bring our guard down. That would be quite inappropriate. As we gradually open up this, we must preserve PPE. We must watch carefully that we do not see a spike of COVID patients, because we would all have to go right back to much tighter clampdown if that were the case. As part of this, we have a very important for our department, return the B44 ICU and its 18 ICU beds to neuroscience care. And this is important because we virtually filled it immediately with people who have acute strokes, large brain tumors, trauma, etc. And this is something that is our base job, and we wish to do it perfectly. As we do this, there are some other hopeful signs that I want people to be aware of. One is students. I know that if I were a medical student during a global pandemic, I'd want to be part of caring for that. We're hopeful that this summer we'll be able to return our students to rotations where they'd be helpful in patient care and learn about taking care of patients in difficult circumstances. We hope that this will start. And we hope also this will be important for our M4s who need to do their rotations as they begin to solidify their interest in what their career choices will be in their residency applications. This will be important. The most important thing that I really want to talk about today is just how people are becoming tired, how people need to persevere. It's natural. There are several reasons for that. One, this is a very different life that we've been leading. It has some minor benefits, and one that is that we often become closer to our families. That's a very important benefit, but it's a disruption of life, our usual rhythms, a lot of the things that we do, and a lot of our jobs, the jobs of our families, etc. The hospital is no different than that. Financial concerns at the hospital have been enormous, but I want to remember that the concerns of worldwide people, of Africa, South America, will be far greater than the ones that we have. I want to explain, though, that there have been announcements just in the last 2 days of cutbacks, of salary cutbacks, of work cutbacks, and try to explain that as best I can, and to the understanding that I have of it, try to predict where we are and what's going on. It's important to understand that a hospital that cuts back to take care of a pandemic is going to lose money at a rapid rate, probably in the areas of hundreds of millions of dollars, most definitely. And this is true of every medical center in the world. And rapidly taking care of a lot of very sick people, often elderly, is something that will not be affordable, and that's understood, but it's what we do. But in light of that, there's been very major changes here at this institution, which were announced in just the last few days. And my understanding of finance may not be the same as the financial experts, but I understand it this way. The hospital builds its capital projects, its building projects, its new ventilators, its new ORs out of capital funds. It has fixed costs, which it cannot decrease, and it has variable costs, which are primarily in personnel. So what it's been trying to do to try to cut these losses to where they can keep the doors open have been to cut everywhere. They basically suspended any capital projects. That was a large portion of our future. That's a problem, but it's important at this time. They have asked for and gotten a significant decrease in pay from all the major administrators and department chairs. And They have asked for and gotten a decrease in salary from all of their faculty. Now they're looking for a lesser decrease proportionately of all the staff and faculty. I do not know how that will all work out, but my hope is that that will be seen as temporary furloughs or decrease in hours so that people may continue to work, support their families, and be essential for this period as we rebuild, as we reconnect, because we have a base job to do as well. This crisis will pass. I just don't know exactly when. It's important to understand it will not be momentarily. It will not be by Easter, which is already passed. It will not be even in a month, because people are afraid. They're not going to see the doctors, and they're basically ignoring their symptoms. We're seeing an increase in bleeding strokes because people haven't been going out to get their blood pressure medicine. We're seeing people coming in quite late from their brain tumors. And until they have the confidence that they can go see their doctor, and that's probably going to be some time out, we're going to be in this difficult period, which will probably last for months. To do that, we need to weather that storm so we can maintain the hospital. And this is really the changes that are happening. An idea of trying to decrease expenses in any way possible while slowly increasing the work we do in a careful and graduated process. This is the difficult time we're in, but it's important to understand that people care about every one of us, and the people that are isolating have been caring about us by keeping us healthy. We've seen where that hasn't happened or isn't possible to happen, as some places in the developing world, this disease takes hold. It's my sincere hope that this will pass. It may be the vaccine, it may be mutations in the disease, it may be social isolation which does it, and I do believe that will happen. I'm not going to predict the future about when, but I want a message of hope to be clear, that people are in a good position here because of the efforts everybody took, including your relatives who isolated, including your friends, including yourselves, and the work you do. I'm very proud of that. I can see a gradual return to normalcy, but it's going to take time. And during that time, we've learned a lot about what's important, about our families, about life, about each other, and how to care for each other, even in a period of social isolation. So my brief message today is, yes, this is a difficult period. Once we knew the duration and extent of this disease could be perfectly predicted, that there would have to be changes in the way we're all paid. And I understand that. I hope that everyone else does. I think that it's most important that we try to maintain this team, which we're so proud of. And I am very proud of everyone. I think that that's my major message, is that we're in the middle of this. We're doing well. We can't let our guard down, and we must be ready for the long haul. So that's the message for today. I'd be glad to take any questions that anybody has. And thank you. We'll see if anybody wants to chat anything. And also, if you just want to unmute and just speak up, please do so as well.
This is Letty.
Yes, Letty.
Do we know if it's going to go into effect for all the video visits as opposed to telemed visits? I was told that they were going to shoot for Thursday.
Yes, Letty's talking about our ability to do video clinics. This is rapidly coming online, Letty. My hope is tomorrow. I can't promise that because I don't know enough about it. It is their target. To people who are not deeply involved in this, we've been seeing patients in person when we need. We've got that down near my target of 10%. We are calling people that up about 70%, and we are postponing about 30%. We would like to enhance the electronic clinic visit conferencing.
No idea. I think I just.
And that is coming on board this week. Does someone else, especially
Thank you.
Fan, know where we stand? So Letty, I'm going to say that I'm very hopeful, but I think it'll be, you know, it'll come in fits and starts. They have 4 stations in the clinic that they'll have prepared. I will know tomorrow.
And
Some
Chad was able
emails
to
about it,
help.
so I can send you an email, Letty. This is Shelley.
Okay, thank you.
But Chad was able to
Chris
help
asked about clinics
download it.
opening up for regular visits. And I think that'll be gradual. I'm watching the governor's stay home message when people say, when do I predict? Because that has not been released to me. I'm predicting that those 2 steps about when we'll be allowed to have like 1 visitor with sick patients will follow the governor's stay-at-home edicts. We do have a committee which will be working on gradual stepwise opening up of the clinics and hospitals. They are meeting now. They promise a report within days. So all I can do is tell you my guesses on that. And since the governor was speaking of late May, that's kind of the dates that I'm thinking that will happen. Things can change. If we get a hotspot in a factory here in town, it might be later. My hope is May. Other questions? Okay, the next question is about laboratory research activities. I actually think, reading the messages I'm getting from the university, that this could actually come in May as well. Primary reason would be all of these steps have to use PPE, they have to use social distancing, but some laboratories can be set up for safety and distancing far better than others. And the way I'm reading what the university, which would take the lead on the laboratories, is saying is that is essential, especially if it's in any way related to pandemics. But all of the work is essential. They'd like to get it up on board fairly soon, as long as, just as I said about the operating rooms, we can prove we can do it safely. So I'm more optimistic about the labs than I am about restaurants or large numbers of people in clinic. Okay. Okay, the next question is about whether being infected by COVID, whether you knew it or not, recovers, are they immune? The answer is yes, but we don't know for how long. So the question is, how did the person get a mild case and get over it? Or how does a person who had it and didn't even know they had it get over it? And that's their immune system. Either because of previous experience with a virus which was closely related, some of the common cold viruses are closely related. A person may be immune and not know they were immune. Or more likely, they had a mild case with a very strong immune system and a small virus load that they received, they overcame it. Now, the question, which is, Tara, which is important, is how long will they be immune? There are some conditions like measles where you are immune probably for a lifetime. There are others, like some flus, where you're immune for probably about 3 years. The only way to tell that question, how long, will be the antibody testing. Unfortunately, the antibody testing is not going well, and they have had false starts with the antibody testing. So right now, we know that that is possible. Indeed, there are trials where they've taken serum from immune people to give it to very sick people. That's a very old technique, but it is a sensible one. So I'm guessing that they would be immune for years, which might be sufficient to wipe this particular pandemic out. If you get a vaccine for a third of the people and mild cases for a third of the people, and sick people that recovered for a third of the people, the virus cannot reoccur. But that's going to take all parts. Anyone else want to unmute to ask a question? If not, I'm going to finish the way I started by thanking everyone. We're in the middle of a difficult time. We're doing well. I think that's important. A lot of what's happening is quite predictable as long as we take the long view. Take advantage of this time. Write the great papers, write the great grants, but spend time with your families. Keep in touch electronically with your distant family and your friends. Cherish the things that are important. Don't worry too much about the things that aren't. I'm proud of every one of you. Thanks once again. Thank you.